Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. In this video, we are going to talk about firmware update 14.02, which has improved HDR Game Mode on Samsung's 2020 QLED televisions, including the Q90T over there, which is the 65-inch version. Now, when I install a firmware update using the USB method, I personally prefer to use a USB thumb drive of the same brand because maybe deep down subconsciously, I think it may yield a better result. But let's talk about this firmware then, 14.02. And there are two key improvements in HDR Game Mode. The first one is the eradication of the HDR Game Mode dimming bar. So what happened with previous firmwares on Samsung's 2020 QLEDs, including the Q90T and Q95T, was that some people were seeing an inexplicable dimming in the brightness of their HDR Game Mode after about 6 minutes of playing a game. And this has caused various issues and confusions among users of Samsung TVs. Is it the game or is it just some random bug in the TV itself that is not linked to the intelligent mode, the energy power saving settings? And so with this latest firmware update of 14.02, this bug has been fixed. And if you can see here, I'm displaying Horizon Zero Dawn, the opening splash screen, and I made sure that I captured it at the start in terms of the brightness using my camera, and then after about 10 minutes I captured it again, and there is no drop in average picture level or brightness at all. And even on this camera from this footage here, you can see behind me there that the Horizon Zero Dawn screen just won't dim even after 6 or 7 minutes, however long I speak. And well done to Samsung for recognizing this issue and fixing this problem, because I think, as we go forward with the next-gen consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X coming out later this year, a working HDR Game Mode is extremely important to many gaming enthusiasts out there. And the beauty of Samsung QLEDs is that they are immune to burn-in if you are a hardcore gamer who wants to play a lot of HDR games many hours continuously. And the second improvement brought about by firmware 14.02 on Samsung's 2020 QLED televisions is the addition of an HGIG mode. If you go into the external device settings in the user menu, you can turn it on. Bear in mind that this is only available in HDR Game Mode. You can only turn it on in HDR Game Mode. Now, some of you may be confused what HGIG is, so I think, my colleague Adam Fairclough has done a fairly succinct explanation video some time ago, but let's just recap. HGIG stands for HDR Gaming Interest Group. So this is a consortium that comprises many display manufacturers, console makers, game developers, and together they are trying to improve the HDR presentation of HDR games for the general consumers. Because if you consider from the point of view of the consumer, when a TV is trying to tone map an HDR game, the TV can do the tone mapping, the console can do the tone mapping, and then the game, there may be some in-game settings as well that you can adjust to try and adjust the HDR parameters. So HGIG attempts to unify all these settings so that it is less confusing to consumers and it provides a better result in terms of picture quality, in terms of the HDR presentation. So what HGIG does, if there's a TV that is HGIG compliant, there's a console that's HGIG compliant, and there is a game that is HGIG compliant, what it will do is that, the TV or display will be sending its metadata back to the console so that the console can decide how to actually tone map the game to the display's capability, and the display will also be disabling much of its tone mapping so that the tone mapping is done only on the console. And obviously this will need cooperation from the side of the gaming studios or game developers as well, because they will need to respect the tone mapping settings that has been set in the console itself and not provide additional in-game settings to mess things up. So if you have been paying attention to the PS4 and lately the Xbox One X, there is an adjust HDR submenu in there where you can actually set the white point, black point, and paper white in the console itself. And HGIG will be utilizing these settings to tone map any HGIG compliant game to be sent to the display, and then the display will be presenting the image which has already been tone mapped by the console without performing any additional tone mapping itself. And from the point of view of the Samsung Q90T I have in my test room at the moment, I measured the HGIG mode versus HGIG mode disabled, and we can see here if we display a 10,000 nit mastering display luminance, you can see that the roll off is not as severe in HGIG mode, which means that it is going to depend on the console to do much of the tone mapping. Now, there are still not many HGIG games out on the market, so I don't think turning on the setting is a wise move for all games. But let's say the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, they will be HGIG compliant, and more games will be HGIG capable. And by providing the setting on the TV, Samsung is making sure that its TVs are future-proofed to a certain extent, so if you know that a game is HGIG capable, then just use your Xbox Series X or PS5 to set the HDR tone mapping parameters according to your needs, according to your ambient light situation. So those are the two key improvements brought about by firmware update 14.02 on Samsung's 2020 QLED TVs, focusing particularly on HDR Game Mode. And I think that it is very well done on the part of Samsung's engineers to bring about these improvements just in the nick of time, before the launch of the Sony PS5 and also the Xbox Series X next-gen consoles next month. And I think that these improvements, namely the fixing of the HDR Game Mode dimming bug and also the inclusion of HGIG mode, will increase the appeal of these Samsung QLED televisions to hardcore gamers who wish to play games for prolonged periods without having to worry about burn-in. Right, I'm gonna go and have a lie down now. Pumping out content 3 times in 24 hours is just physically draining. If you would like to watch some of our technical TV reviews, I've compiled a playlist here. And if you would like to watch some of our technical TV comparisons, I've put another playlist here if you'd like to click on it. And I'll see you in the next video.